Hold out the way. Welcome to Used Car Heaven. Today we've come to visit Cinch at one of their gigantic facilities where they house some of their inventory to have a little bit of a nosy round. Why? Well, because as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, a second-hand electric car bargain basically wasn't a thing. It didn't exist, whereas now it really does. Not least because used car prices are through the floor at the moment, so there's some deals to be done. Gathered here are over 20 fantastic second-hand electric cars, ranging from cheap as chips runabouts to high-end luxuries, now heavily discounted. And we're just going to have a little look around and pick out some of our favourites. I will say, by the way, this is not a paid advertisement. Cinch have just very kindly let us come in for the day. And in return, I will say for them that every car you see here at the time of recording is for sale on their website. So if you see something you like, head to Cinch's website, pick yourself up a bargain.
Love the Fully Charged show? Join us live in Canada this September, the South in October, and Australia and London in 2025.
Right, what I've done is break the cars up into 4 distinct categories. We're going to go through them one by one, starting with the cheap as chip stuff. The sub 15, even sub £10,000 used EV bargains.
Category 1, cheapest of the cheap.
And we have to start with the original, the OG, the Nissan Leaf, the first mass-produced electric family car. Robert still has his, he still loves his. I don't have nostalgia for these, and I think they are dreary, but if you're looking for a properly cheap runabout and range isn't a big deal for you, look no further. It's spacious, it's practical. These cars are pre-thermal management systems in batteries, which means the battery range does fall off a cliff. In high mile examples, this one's got about a third of a charge, it's showing 15 miles. So expect 50 odd miles of range from an early Nissan Leaf like this. Everything else you see here, by the way, comes from the era of good thermal management systems of batteries, so degradation is going to be much less of an issue. Also worth noting, Cinch only deal with cars that are less than 7 years old, have done less than 70,000 miles, which means they're all still under battery warranty, so you don't even have to worry about that kind of thing. But yeah, if you're looking for something to teach your kids to drive in, something with not enough range for them to run away from home when you have a big argument on the weekend, early Nissan Leaf. Next, it's the lovely little Renault Zoe, the first electric super mini, and still one of the smallest cars that offers really big range. Even the second-hand example like this, you're more than likely going to be able to get 200 odd miles of range if you pick the right version. This car here is 4 years old, it's done less than 20,000 miles, it's a little over £11,000. A couple of things of note in this. Number one, the interior has aged so well. It's still so modern looking, it's clean, it's simple, it works. The other thing worth noting, or being wary of with these cars, is charging, because early examples came with CHAdeMO, which is basically not a thing anymore. Don't get one of those, it'll be annoying. What you want is a later model like this with DC. Oh, VW E-Up. I love these little nuggets. These are fantastic electric city cars. Surprisingly roomy, surprisingly comfortable, quite fun to drive, surprisingly rangy because they're so efficient. Small, lightweight, we know that that means good efficiency. 4.5, 5 miles to the kilowatt hour, easy, meaning very potentially 150, 170 miles of range. That's not just city driving. Love these cars. Look at this. There's no infotainment screen. There's just a little phone holder mounted on the dash. You connect your phone, use that for maps, use that for music. Simple. The golden tip with these cars, for me, is don't get the VW, because there was also the Skoda Citigo E and the Seat Me Electric. Same car, different badges. The Seat and the Skoda, you can get those for a little under £10,000 now, whereas the VW, you're going to pay a couple of grand extra for the badge. Estate car, anyone? MG5 Electric, the first electric estate. Fun fact, the first car I ever drove, fully charged, we did a twin test with this and the Taycan Cross Turismo, did me and Bobby, because we are silly, silly boys. The Taycan won. But this is good, it's a good car. It's also half price and only 2 years old compared to how much it cost new. This is just over £15,000. It's a big, roomy, practical, no frills electric estate car. Surprisingly comfortable, very easy to live with. It's not going to set your trousers on fire, but if you have large dogs and children, you know? Alternatively, if like everyone else in the world, you are more interested in a high-riding crossover than a practical and better estate car, MG, ZS, EV, anyone? This, when it came out, was the best value smallish electric family crossover. Frankly, it probably still is. It got a facelift a couple of years ago with a much nicer face, I think, and some upgraded battery options, 51 or 73 kilowatt hours. You can have those facelifted cars for less than 20 grand, but these early ones with a 45 kilowatt hour battery, 12K. That's a steal. Now then, this is a real star pick for me. Early Kia e-Niro. This is from before Kia got all cool and sexy. It's even got the old badge, something of a collector's item these days. When this car came out, it was the cheapest way into a 300-mile EV, and today, a second-hand one of these is probably the cheapest way into a 300-mile EV. This one is only 3 years old. It's done barely any miles at all, and it's about £17,000, but there are others available with higher mileage on Cinch right now for 14 grand. 14 grand for a 300-mile electric car. That would have been unheard of a couple of years ago. And again, it's not especially stylish, but it just gets the job done. It's well equipped, it's comfortable, surprisingly spacious in the back, despite the fact that there was a petrol and hybrid version of it. It's just a fabulous car. One of those cars that owners sing about. Quick sidebar as we move on to the next car. You may have heard it said online that no one's buying electric cars, used or new, at the moment. Cinch tell us otherwise. We were speaking to them before we started filming today. They were saying once upon a time it would take twice as long to move a second-hand electric car as a petrol car. These days it takes almost the exact length of time, maybe 1 day longer. In fact, they're so popular they're increasing their share of EVs, where 10% of the stock you see here today is electric now. Just saying. But Jack, I hear you say, what if I want a car that is very similar to the Kia e-Niro but has the face of Darth Vader with constipation? Well, I'm so glad you asked. This is the Kia Soul EV. I've never quite understood this car. You'd think it's boxier and therefore roomier alternative to the e-Niro with which it shares its underbits, but it actually has a smaller boot. It's basically just a different face. Pick the one you prefer. This is a good car. I would go for the e-Niro. What I will say for the Soul is the really, really early ones, kind of like the early Leaves, those are a real bargain now. I think Cinch have one on their site for 6 grand. Again, it's going to have pretty small range, but as a boxy, spacious runabout, pretty ideal. And just quickly to close out this bargain basement section, one car I need to shout out that we don't have here today is the original Hyundai Ioniq, the Wind Knife. Legendarily efficient. Owners will regularly boast of 7 or more miles to the kilowatt hour. That means that little 37 kilowatt hour battery could get you north of 250 miles, even with a little bit of battery degradation. Fabulous car, yours today for 12 odd grand. Anyway, that's enough sensible, worthy stuff. Let's look at some cool stuff.
Category 2. Too expensive new makes sense used.
And in this category, we're going to have a fair number of smaller electric city cars which came out with very low mileage and a very big price tag. Like this one, the Honda E. I adore this car. There was a brilliant moment in time when this was released in 2020 where every motoring journalist that reviewed it said it was the best thing since sliced bread, and then everyone who read the reviews went, what are you talking about? It's £38,000 and it'll barely do 100 miles of range. True, nonsensical, ridiculous, but now 15 grand. 15 grand, much more palatable. And what you get for that is a triumph of design. This is Honda at its brilliant, weird, quirky best. Fabulous interior, extremely comfortable, lovely materials, loads of screens, camera wing mirrors as standard. I mean, just look at it. Look at it. On a very similar note, early Mini Electric. Now, by the time you watch this video, Robert's review of the new Mini Electric will have gone live on the channel. He was very impressed with that car. In particular, the decision they made to actually give it some range, which they sort of didn't with this one. Like the Honda, you'd be pretty happy to get 100 miles out of a full charge. As such, that 30-something thousand pound starting price felt a bit punchy, but now 11, 12 grand gets you one of these, and it's a Mini. It looks good. It's got a really lovely, beautifully finished BMW made interior. Really, really good handling as well. Really chuckable because it's quite light. And I just remember spinning up the front wheels constantly at the launch of this car. It's a little terrier. It's a hot hatchback, quite frankly. Great little car, stylish, interesting, and now very reasonably priced. And from one motoring icon to another, it's the Fiat 500. Again, everything I said about those two cars, true here as well. Very, very small range, but the good news is very small price these days. You can get a small battery 500e for £11,000. But the good thing about this car is there are also bigger battery versions with properly usable range, 160 odd miles. Maybe even 200 if you're doing city driving like this one, which is only 2 years old and yours for just under £14,000. One gripe I remember with this car from driving it at the launch, nowhere to put your left foot, but that's very Italian. Moving on to one of my absolute all-time favourite electric cars. It is the brilliant, bonkers, weird, fantastic, innovative BMW i3. BMW released this thing at a time when most of their rivals didn't have an electric car, and they said, look how futuristic and forward-thinking we are when it comes to electric vehicles. And then proceeded to spend 5 years making the least imaginative EVs that they could muster. Hopefully things get a bit better with the Neue Klasse. Well, that's an aside, forget about that, let's talk about this. It's wonderful. It's got a strange, spacious interior made of interesting materials. That's carbon fibre, this is recycled flax or something. It's got suicide doors like a Rolls-Royce Phantom. It's hilarious to drive because it's got quite a lot of power and very skinny tyres, and it's just interesting, isn't it? They've made an effort to make it interesting. Something that there wasn't a lot of at this time when it came to electric cars. 10 grand you can pick these up for now. You show me a more interesting used car for £10,000. Alternatively, if you don't want something weird and wacky, if you just want a small car that happens to be electric, Peugeot E208. These are fabulous little things. Lovely, lovely interiors, really premium, stylish, good to drive, substantially more range than the other cars that we've looked at in this category. 13 and a bit thousand pounds for one of these, 3 years old, that's a steal. And actually this is here representing all of those Gen 1 Stellantis EVs, your Vauxhall Moccas, your E208s, your Citroen EC3s, all really good, all a bit too dear new, but now rather tantalising. Right, one more. Now then, the Cupra Born. I, like many people, was just a little bit underwhelmed when this car first came out. It wasn't quite as fast and sporty as maybe we hoped it was going to be to drive, and it was still plagued with all those haptic, touchy, rubby buttons and switches that annoy me in the VW ID cars. But, well, it's cheaper now, and all of a sudden, a lot more appealing. At £20,000, which you can get these for now, I can forgive some slightly irritating buttons, because when you look beyond those, what you have is a fabulous platform, good range, good efficiency, great turning circle, good handling, and very, very spacious inside. And also, with the Cupra over the VW ID3, much more interesting to look at inside and out. Love the spec on this one too.
Category 3. Someone lost their arse so that you don't have to.
See, the thing about having high-end luxury cars is half the point of having one is having the new one, which means they tend to lose a huge chunk of value in the first year or two after being new, bringing them into price range of normal people. Now, generally speaking, buying a cut-price luxury car is financial suicide. First time you service it, it's going to cost you that much again. But not so much with electric cars, because they are low maintenance, they don't have engines. You can take a punt on a luxury wafter for a bargain price. For example, Audi e-tron, the first electric Audi. I didn't much like this when it came out. I thought it was really unimaginative. It is, it's basically just a Q7 with some batteries up its bum. It's not especially rangy, it's not especially efficient. It was pretty expensive when new. But having said all of that, you get in and, oh, it's an Audi. It's a 5-year-old Audi. It's exquisite. It smells like fancy leather, and it's got all the toys. This one's got the Bang & Olufsen sound system and the heads-up display and the heated and cooled seat. And it's £22,000. It's not even the cheapest one on Cinch right now. On a very similar note, Mercedes EQC. Again, not groundbreaking, not a revelation, not especially efficient, but a Mercedes. A big, wafty, silent, comfortable Merc with a beautifully finished interior. I think they're the best at steering wheels, or at least they were at this time, Mercedes, with the two little track pads and the lovely metal machined buttons. Oh, it's ever so nice in here. And yours for all of £25,500. And then we've got this, the Jaguar I-Pace. For me, still one of the best to drive electric cars. It's good looking, the interior is exquisite, it's fast, the infotainment system is rubbish. It's a Jaguar, in other words, and potentially the only EV JLR is ever going to bother making. So rare and collectible as well. 20 grand. But this might just be the bargainiest of bargains, the BMW iX. Ugly as sin, utterly exquisite, unbelievably good interior, wonderful to drive, pointlessly fast, just a magnificent BMW halo car. That's where you put the washer fluid as well. That's fun. Look at the interior of this thing. Can we just, Andy, can we have a little poke in here? Look, so nice. Harman Kardon sound system, probably massage seats. The thing that I remember from my time with this car is when you turn on the heated seat, not just the seat, but the inside of the door and the center console all heat up. It's like being in the womb. Now, when I tested this car a couple of years ago, the car we had on test had a sticker price, I think, of just under £120,000. This one, with a lot of kit on, 44,000. I'm buying this. This is my car. And just to finish this section, another quick honourable mention, we have to talk about the Porsche Taycan. Still one of, if not the best handling electric cars. It's a Porsche. It's a Porsche. There's a million of them on sale secondhand now because seemingly everyone got one as a company car 3 or 4 years ago because they were such bargains via company car schemes. So you've plenty to choose from. Got to be a bit careful choosing one because Porsche don't do packages for their trims. Everything is an individual option. So each car will be different, but you can have a Taycan for £45,000 now. That is mind-blowing. Anyway, moving on.
Category 4, the best of the best.
In this category, we're going to be looking at, quite simply, the best electric cars from the last few years, now heavily discounted and infinitely more accessible. And we start with the Mach-E. Great colour on this one. This is the standard range car, so 68 kilowatt hour usable battery, probably still 200 odd miles of range there. What's great about these is there's a lot of redundancy built into that battery as well, because it's 75 kilowatt hour nominal. What that means is basically zero battery degradation is likely. Way better to drive than any car this size and weight has any right to be. And look at this, I've just noticed on this one. First of all, button for door handle. I'm still not over that, really fun. This one also has a little keypad in the B pillar so that you can throw your key in, go for a swim at the beach, come back, beep, 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 unlock it that way. I don't think we're allowed this in Europe. This one here is 2 years old, £26,700. That's just over half price. Now, here's a car I know a thing or two about, the Polestar 2. What I drive every single day, and I adore it. The thinking man's Tesla Model 3. Scandi cool, exquisite, minimalist interior, good to drive, just interesting, cool, interesting, Swedish. This one's absolutely loaded as well. This is dual motor, long range. It's got the packs with the Harman Kardon sound system and radar guided cruise control, £22,700. That is a bargain. Just to be aware, this is the pre-facelift car, which means I think it's better looking without that bit of plastic across the front, but slightly less efficient than the later cars. And if you're going for single motor, pre-facelift cars are front wheel drive, not rear wheel drive, so slightly less fun, but still, I adore them. But if anything could tease me out of my Polestar 2, it would probably be one of these, the Hyundai Ioniq 6. What a machine this is, with that really, really distinctive streamliner silhouette, really slippery shape, mega efficient, 5 miles to the kilowatt hour, easy peasy, which means this long range car will give you 350 miles of range if you look after it. thing I loved about this car when I drove it is the way it encourages you to be efficient. You can see your efficiency in front of you at all times, and you're playing a game with yourself. You're trying to drive as smoothly and cleanly as possible. This car makes that fun to do. You don't have to if you don't want to. Beautiful, intuitive, user-friendly interior, really eye-catching design. These are still pretty new, so they're not cheap, but they're just starting to drop under £30,000. Alternatively, if you need a little bit less range and a little bit more headroom, Ioniq 5, 25k these days. That's a deal. It's a deal. It's a steal. Now then, the Skoda Enyaq. Big, spacious, practical, wafty family goodness. Again, sister car to the VW ID4, just as the Cupra is the sister car to the ID3. Both great. We use ID4s as camera cars at Fully Charged, and they are rock solid, so dependable, so roomy, so practical. But I think the Skoda is just a bit more interesting. Again, rarer, nicer looking, nicer interior, proper buttons on the steering wheel as well. We like those. And these are big, roomy cars, huge amounts of space in the rear seats, gigantic boots, outrageous value now. There's one of these on Cinch currently, £17,500. That's bonkers. And to finish off, where else? Where else could we finish? It's the Tesla Model 3. It's the electric car, one of the most popular EVs ever made, and just a game changer on wheels. Pop quiz, how do you identify an early Model 3? They all look the same, right? Wrong. Early cars, silver trim around the doors and windows, silver door handles. The later cars, 2021 onwards, black trim. There you go. Fun, nerdy fact. What can we say that hasn't already been said? Massive efficiency, supercharger network, great visibility. People don't talk about that enough with Teslas. The view out is like a supercar, just this slanted nose, and you can see around you so well. The best software in the game. It's still being regularly updated. You still get those updates. And the best thing about these pre-facelift cars, indicator stalks. Remember those? Yeah. Well done getting rid of those, Tesla. This is a standard range car. This will do 200 miles. Yours for less than £15,000. Long range, less than 20. That is, I mean, we could have just done a video on this and sacked off the rest of them. We should all just be driving these if we were thinking with our heads. I'll do a quick shout out here for the Model S as well, the game changer, the first desirable premium, long range, fast electric car. Those are a bit of a steal now these days as well. The early ones might be a little bit shonky and the badging is a bit confusing relative to later Tesla models, but it's a lot of car for not very much money. And certain years of early Model S's still have free supercharging for life, which transfers to new owners when you buy them second hand. That's quite tasty. Well, there you have it, 24 reasonably priced second-hand electric cars that prove just how exciting the used electric car market is getting. Seriously, why does anyone buy a new car? Do let us know in the comments which one of these caught your eye, which car should we have mentioned that we didn't. Do make sure to like and subscribe, and if you have been, thank you for watching.